Good evening, everyone. I now call Blackstone's regularly scheduled council meeting to order this July 17th at 7 p.m. Councilman Nguyen sends her regards. She will not be in attendance tonight. She is on a family trip. I must say that if we have a tie vote, 3-3 vote, that I'll be called upon to break the tie. I hope and pray that does not happen. Pastor Hogue, would you mind coming up and giving the invocation? Sure. And afterwards, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Certainly.
Thank you, sir.
As I was getting ready for this tonight, I turned over to, you know that thing we have in our home called Alexa? And I said, Alexa off. And it occurred to me that I probably spend more time talking to Alexa than I do to God. Maybe that's the case with all of us, I don't know, but let's spend some time talking to Him for a few minutes. Let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you for the time we have here tonight. We thank you for all the wonderful things we have in our country, all the wonderful things that we enjoy, all the blessings that you pour out on us, and yet so often we're not thankful for them. We just take them all for granted a lot of times, and we ask your forgiveness for that. We do thank you for the blessings of this country, for this nation, for this state, and for this town. And Lord, I pray for the folks that lead us here, the ones who sit and make decisions for us in this town. I pray your wisdom for them. I pray your guidance for every decision they make, not just tonight, but for throughout the year. And I ask you to continue to bless them and their families as they work and as they spend time, their time, taking care of us. And so we thank you for this opportunity to be here, to share in fellowship with others, and to solve problems, and to find solutions, and to lead our city. And we give you all the glory for that. We thank you for a nation that is one nation under God. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Those that are able to stand, please do so as the Colonel leads us. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Colonel. At this time, I would entertain any additions or changes to tonight's agenda.
I'd like to add a closed session, town council.
Closed session, town council. Any other requests for additions to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on into the meeting. The first item that we have tonight is we have two public hearings. The first is a hearing that is required to proceed with a request from the manager to blight 310 North Main Street in Blackstone. Mr. Manager?
I must say it's with heavy heart that I bring this to you, because I really had wished that the private property owners could get this done, but we haven't had a lot of success on making progress. Some of the damage to the house at that particular address is actually from the ice storm. If you remember that back in February of 21, the front porch is in tough condition. Property sits, if you're not familiar with it, it's at the corner of North High Street and Dinwiddie Avenue. It's just really has gotten to be problematic. The property owner has communicated with us, stated that she's trying. She'd like to do some things, but we haven't seen any progress. I think even at one point, I think there was a civic group that was interested in helping her, and apparently they've decided not to do that with some of the repairs. The house is in tough shape. I see some collapse towards the on the north side of the house. There, if Jennifer has it in your packet, I apologize, I was out last week. So, but there is a plan that we provided to the property owner. We've provided that to Tessie, and we provided for you guys. And that plan is to do some significant repairs to the front porch, the north side of the house, and there's several sections on the rear and the south side of the house that have appreciable rot and deterioration of some of the soffit boards and portions of the roof. We just haven't gotten very far with the folks, and I really hope that this ultimately doesn't become fruition, because there are two people, to my knowledge, there are two people that live in the house. And that's not something that you take lightly, as trying to potentially have somebody move out of their home as a matter of this. But we're just not making very much progress, and we've been at it over a year. And I'd ask that we hold a public hearing tonight to get comments. There's still a long process. If you read the ordinance that's also included in your packet, it discusses that if it is council's will, I would ask that you authorize us to take all action, including eminent domain, to take possession of the property so the blight can be remediated. Okay.
Can we tour that tomorrow on the bus tour too?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
At this time, I'll open a public hearing for this. Is there anyone that would like to come to the podium to speak for this blight designation of 301 North High Street? Hearing none, is there anyone that would like to come to the podium that opposes this action of council to blight 301 North High Street? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing, and I will have comments or questions from members of council.
Philip, is there any money and programs that we have in the budget to help assist?
I think Chastity's spoken with her. Without discussing her business too much, I think that there's an appreciable lien on the property still, and that may preclude that sort of thing. But we do have a workforce housing program, and we are building houses for qualified families. I know Chastity has spoken with the folks that on South Main Street, and I don't think that can, because they don't have ownership of the house, was the issue there. That was the main issue.
No weather. It's probably beyond that.
I think I'd like to look at it closer to see if maybe something like that could be applied to it. I've never been inside. I'm just going by what I see on the outside, and I don't know if $50,000 of weatherization funds would necessarily do it, to tell you the truth. And that $50,000 isn't, I can't say an arbitrary figure, it's the budgeted figure for an annual
You have
allocation.
several folks in front, line in front.
And I think there are probably half a dozen people that Chassie's been working with.
At least 6. It's at
Yeah,
least
it's
6.
a bunch,
That I know of.
yeah.
Any other questions, council?
And hopefully, once this ordinance is passed, if it's passed, then we can sit down with her and get really serious about getting some done. We've been communicating by emails and certified letters, and that's really all we've been doing.
Council, in your package, you have a suggested ordinance to blight 301 North Main Street. Is there a motion?
North High Street, excuse me, North High.
North High, my bad. North High, let the record reflect North High. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Nash has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
And Mr. Miller has seconded. Is there any other discussion? I'll ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Also, you have in your package an abatement plan.
So that was to adopt the ordinance.
Adopt the
right?
ordinance, and and I'm gonna ask for a motion to accept and approve the manager's abatement plan for 301 North High Street. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Nash moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Gorman says second. Any questions or discussion, council?
Just hope we try to work with the
No, absolutely.
property owner.
I mean, this is the same process where it started with Dillard Crawley, and you can see how long that's taken. So there will be ample opportunity to sit down and say, God, is there a way, civic groups or something? But I think structurally the house is in bad shape on that north side. So, like I said, I've never been in. I'm only observing from the outside. But yeah, she's got all the opportunity in the world to come up with a plan.
I just want people to know we're not going tomorrow and saying, you're out of the house.
Oh, no.
But-
This is a,
If we blight it, how long can they stay in that house?
Well, we certainly aren't in a position to move somebody out of a house. That would be a judge's order, something like that, that for eminent domain to take place per the ordinance. It's not the town putting somebody out. It'll be a court order that would have to make that happen. And certainly that person would have the ability to go to court and state their case and potentially even come up with a work plan that the judge would agree to.
We're a long ways from
Yeah,
that.
this is
This is
potentially a year.
Authority to-
This could take a very, very long time.
Any other questions, council? I ask for a roll call vote to approve, the blight plan presented by the manager.
Was that, we're in July, Councilman Nash votes first.
I can never keep up. Will
It's
you
okay.
put a
thought that
flower
I
up
usually
here?
text everybody the day of to let them know who's.
Well,
voting
text me
first.
too.
Okay, I'll do that.
Because I cannot keep up with it. But please forgive me, sir. I ask for a voice vote to approve this plan presented by the managers. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Mr. Manager. We move right along. Public hearing number 2. It is for a ordinance of vacation for an alleyway that abuts Broad Street. Mr. Manager?
If you remember, we had a short month this past month, and we had a meeting late last month. We had to extend it a week because of Juneteenth. In order, and we presented to you a request from a resident on Broad Street to abandon an alleyway that is shown on a plat that she has. And I've seen the plat, and it is shown as an alleyway. We went ahead and advertised and got it in the paper because we were on a short schedule. And then I went up to the courthouse and did the research and actually found an ordinance of vacation showing that it has already been vacated. At least that portion of the alley that runs to the northern portion of her property. And if you read that description on the first page of the ordinance of vacation, it says it's a portion of a certain 20-foot wide alley located and lying in Block B, the town of Blackstone, and described on a certain plat of lands dated 1901, compiled and revised by Rives Brothers in 1905. Said plat being recorded in the clerk's office, Book 77, page 593. Said Block B being bounded on the north by Tavern Street, on the west by High, south on Broad, and the east by Harris. So we know we got the right block. Okay. Said portion of the 20-foot alley being bounded on the east by Lot 5 in said Block B, and on the west by Lot 4, and she is the owner of both of those parcels. Okay. Said portion of the 20-foot alleyway outletting on the northern right-of-way line of Broad Street and extending therefrom in a northerly direction toward Tavern Street to the rear of said Lot 4. So it extends to the back of her current property. That has already been abandoned. What I can tell without more research, potentially the rest of the alley is still open. But this was an ordinance of vacation for that section of alley where Kenneth Taylor used to live that ran up in there.
And there's also a fence there too.
She's put up a fence, but this alley that is shown was close to her house.
Right.
I mean, pretty darn close to her house. There's a fence that runs up there next to the old Bevel's property, and it's right there. The fence that she put up is between she and the old Slaw property, or the Dorns that they purchased, and she erected that fence. So I called Billy once I found this, or called the advertising and told him to cancel the second advertisement. So we did pay for one, canceled the second one, and there's no need for action. And Chassie's actually spoken with her and told her what was going on.
So we can move on.
Move on. No action required.
Council, you have before you in your package a set of minutes from a special call meeting on May the 23rd. What's your pleasure?
Move to accept.
Mr. Miller moves to accept, and does that include dispensing with the reading?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Williams is second. Is there any questions or corrections from council? Hearing none, I will ask for a voice vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented and waiving the disposition, waiving the reading of the minutes, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. There are 2 times for visitors to speak to the council. Now is one, and at the conclusion of council deliberating their business, there'll be a time. I have 4 visitors. We'll dispense with those, and then if we have with anyone else, we'd be glad to hear from you. So first, we'll have Colonel Hogue. Would you mind coming to the podium, sir? Did you had business with the council?
Unfortunately,
Does everyone have a copy of the utility bill we're gonna speak of? Proceed, Colonel.
Well, thanks for the time. I do appreciate it. Try to be brief. First, I want to thank you for the last meeting that you had, and I understand it was a good, healthy discussion about our situation out at the church, where there was a large water bill, and you all debated that and came up with a reasonable response, and we appreciate that very much. So the bill that we got this month reflected initially a large amount as well. That's been adjusted down. That was apparently an error, but the one that's standing still on this is $376.59, which is what it says what equates to the consumption of 14,800 gallons. This was apparently rolled over or part of the original one. I don't know that for sure, and so I can't say that. But I did find out today that the current reading, which was 1 July, has us back at the normal rate. So I can only assume that that was part of that. So I guess what we're asking is that you consider putting us at a reasonable rate for that amount as well. Normally, our bills run $76.31 a month, which is the minimum. I guess that's the standard minimum amount that we pay, and we've paid that for years. And normally, that's what we pay. We're not out there during the week. We seldom have special events out there during the summer, only during the wintertime. And we had no special events there during this time. And if you counted the flushes on Sundays, that's probably about 10. So there's just no other way we'd use the water. But that's my piece, and I'll leave the rest up to you. Any questions?
You've had a plumber repair the issue, or?
Well, what I've done is every week we go in there, I listen for the water in the toilet and look. It's not running. Before we leave, I listen and look. It's not running. And I've done that ever since we had the incident.
There's a stuck flapper or something.
Yeah, right. So the only thing I can conclude is it's partial from the last one.
You've heard the Colonel's request. Is there any discussion or any action that you would like to take?
And if I might add, me and Ms. Singster talked today, who was in charge of utilities, and then I talked to Pastor Hogue. And it seems like when he got the bill, it was at the end of the month. And by the time he gets the bill, they're reading for the beginning of the month. So me and Ashley believe maybe it was carried over for when he found out he had to leave.
This is part of the original problem.
Yes,
Okay.
that's what she believed it was.
So what does he ask us to let him pay the same rate, $78 or whatever he was paying, or what?
$76.31 would be great. I mean, that's what we normally pay, and that's. Yeah.
Jennifer, you said that, the young lady, Ashley, I'm sorry, I didn't get her name.
Ashley Singster.
Yeah, said that they believe, but can they look, investigate into it and see if it's a fact, if the bill was carried over to this month?
Well, she checked, that month's reading last month when it was a high bill, and that was actually from May or April. Okay. And so, like I was saying, so when he gets the bill and it's mailed on the first, when the bills are mailed on the first, on that first, the guys are already reading the meter for the next month, and I don't think that they saw that there was another high bill. And his original bill that he got in the mail didn't have a previous reading, so it was like a couple $1,000s. So he came in today to talk about that, and they corrected that. So the only thing I guess is when he got the bill at the first of the month, that's when he got it checked out and had the toilet looked at. And then in the meantime, they have read again, so before it was repaired, the continuation, it was still running for the next month. Now, I don't know that you can actually prove that, but that appears to be what it is. Does that make sense?
Otherwise, this bill right here would be another $1,200.
Right, and so then
Right.
we gotta check it today,
Yeah.
and it's back to normal again. So, and this would be reading from, okay, so, and this would be reading for June, right? Okay.
Mr. Alman?
I'd like to make a motion to decline this request with with a statement afterwards. I'm to avoid being vague, I wasn't sure how to handle this, but I've spoken to a couple other council members and the mayor, and while we may disagree with always using taxpayer dollars for this sort of thing, I think it's a worthy cause, and I think I'm going to give myself and some of the other council members a chance to make a donation and hopefully get this taken care of out of our own pockets.
Well, that would be very generous of you. Thank you.
A worthy cause over there, and
Thank you.
Mr. Nash has moved to decline. Is there a second?
Mr.
Mr. I tell you, I'm having a bad night.
Mr. Nash wanted to do it, but he beat him to it.
Mr. Alman has moved to decline. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Nash is second. Any other discussion?
for the second part of that, I'm going to leave the envelope with our very gracious clerk here, and then if anybody else wants to donate to it, can find her.
So we're about $300 short. Is that your math?
Of getting to the 76, correct?
Well, I pledge $100 right now.
I think you're, with that, you've got the number then.
Correct.
Okay.
So it's taken care of.
Well, thank you.
Well,
That's very gracious of you. I
Let me
appreciate
dispatch of this motion, if you will. Hold tight, okay? We have a motion and a second to decline Colonel Hoag's request, Pastor Hoag's request. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Mr.
I
Miller?
think that due to this problem, I think that we should go back out there and check this. So it won't.
We checked it today,
They
right?
did today to make sure, and it's
And
correct now.
It's correct.
Okay, but I still say we need to constantly check it for a few to make sure.
For a while.
So we won't
Yeah.
for a while, so we won't have this problem.
Yeah, that'd be a great idea.
Is that something
Mike-
you can do with Andre Phil?
I don't wanna get in your business, but it should have a stop valve under it that you just rotate and turn off. If it does, that would take care of it.
Are you talking about the toilet?
Right.
Yeah.
You just turn the stop off and
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about it. Any other discussion? I'll ask for a voice vote. All those in favor of declining the pastor's request indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
The church thanks you for declining our request.
A very odd situation indeed, but, all right,
Would that
I'm
be
going to leave
six?
it with Jennifer.
Thank you.
And then
6-0.
I'm gonna give everybody some time to see.
Sure. Thank you very much. And again, thank you all for the work that you did last month for us. I appreciate that.
absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do in the community. Our second visitor is Mr. Thomas Taylor. Would you please come to the podium?
Afraid you let,
I'd be delighted to indulge you, sir.
I like the Nottaway Recreation,
Oh,
you go in front of me.
I'll be delighted to accommodate you.
I'll pick up the rear.
I'll be delighted to accommodate. If Nottaway Rec Association would come forward, please. You're gonna have 3 minutes.
Yeah, don't shoot, might need a whole time.
If you don't mind, your name and address for the record, please.
Amanda Atkinson, and I'm the softball commissioner for the Nottaway Youth Recreation Association, one of them. We have a ponytails team that's going to the World Series in Louisiana, and we were trying to get permission to do a helmet drive on Saturday to help raise money to get the girls to Louisiana.
Where'd y'all do it in the past?
Where?
Yeah, it's been done before.
I believe it was Heritage Hall, but we were on Main Street, but we were at Heritage Hall. Was it just one? Or was it 2 locations? No, we're just talking about Blackstone. I think we were just near Heritage Hall. Because I think we were right there in the middle of Main Street at Heritage Hall. And I believe it was an officer sitting with the girls while they were collecting the money. And then, of course, the coaches are there too.
We handle that. Okay.
Thank you.
In government, we always have to split things up and get it just right. So are you requesting a boot drive on one location on South Main Street? Is that
Yes,
correct?
sir, on Saturday.
Okay, on Saturday.
And then whatever time is good for you all.
I would take you that other thing too, because I think they asked for a donation.
This Saturday?
The 22nd, yeah.
council, you've heard the request. Is there any action?
What times as in the past? I mean,
I think we started, was it like 8:30 to 12?
we'll just say 8 to 12.
Okay.
I move to approve the request for South Main and 6th, not to be closed, but for them to have a helmet drive from 8 to 12 at that location with an officer on site.
I'll second that.
Mr. Page is seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion, any opposed? Didn't hear any. Motion carries 6-0. Anything else that you'd like for us?
Is there a request
For $1,000, isn't it?
in here as well?
Yeah.
Or,
Is it a request for $1,000 in
Yes,
here?
there was a request also. Last year, the town did help us out, with our trip. And the town had donated $1,000. It would be great if we could have that again this year, with the pleasure of the board.
Members of council, do you have any questions or any action?
I move that we give the rec $1,000 toward this World Series trip.
Thank you.
Second.
Mr. Miller has second and have a Mr. Miller has moved and have a trio of seconds, and I'm gonna give that to Ms. Williams. Any discussion?
I'm gonna ask the question that Mr. Nass normally asks. Where would we get this out of the budget?
I think your discretionary funds are pretty close. I think you guys added them up last time with the chamber DBI request. I think there was about $1,000.
This is it.
Isn't that the math that,
We're 17 days into the year.
look? I think there's $1,000 left in.
Out of fairness to the other donations that we made, for the $1,000 portion, can you provide some kind of sort of receipts, or, you know, if you're spending on hotel and lodging, whatever you're spending
Yes,
on?
I actually have a paper in the car. I'll send it by my husband in the morning, to Jennifer, and she can get it to y'all, but it's a form that'll, it just has basically what you're donating for, because this will be how we did it last year, was we just pulled all the money together and divided it between the families to help with the gas and the lodging and the meals for each family, but I'll get that to her in the morning.
What's the typical cost? What's the-
Typically, if you get the motel room from start to finish, it's gonna cost you upwards of $1,200 plus. For the families to get into the actual complex, of course, the players and the coaches are free, but it's generally $8 for adults and anybody over the age of, I believe it was 12 last year. And then like 6 to 12, I think it was $3 or $4, and then under that was free. And then you figure your meals, and we know concession stand prices vary. Plus, being away from home, of course, you're gonna have the breakfast and dinner portion to pay for too, and then the gas getting there. Cause it's gonna take us, we will be about 16 plus hours away from home.
do you know how much you raised last year in total, and about how much you guys spent as a group? Or-
We raised, it was right at 30,000 last year. And what we did was we took that whole amount and divided it between the 12 families that went. Fortunately, the coaches have children on the team, so instead of having like a coach's allotment plus player allotment, that one allotment went for the same family. So we do have the 3 coaches, each have a child on the team. I think they roughly took $2,500 last year to put towards room, board, food, gas, everything is what it ended up being. And we're trying to do that again this year. Give them the same amount for the hotels and gas and food.
So your expenses were around in line for that amount?
It was, I mean, of course, it did cost us more, but I figure if we can take some of the burden off the families, that would be great. Because depending on, of course, how long we stay is gonna depend on
Right.
how long. And I know last year, most of everybody left on one day. We spent the night and then finished. Like we drove 10.5 hours the first day, stopped, and drove the rest the next day. And I think most people are planning on doing that to and from, so then you incur those costs too.
Any other questions, council?
Thank you, by the way.
You're welcome.
I think it's a wonderful thing you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
All right, there is a motion and a second to donate this $1,000 towards the ponytails. Ask for a voice vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Any opposed?
Nay, sorry.
Motion carries 5-1.
I'll catch you up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Mr. Thomas Taylor Taft Jr.
Yeah, I'll be there in a minute. It'll take 3 damn minutes. All right, 2.5 right there. Yeah, I want to talk about an incident that happened to me July the 3rd. 3 of the council members know about it. I'm not gonna sue the town, so don't worry about it, and no private property, so don't have the county attorney get all hair in the bonnet. I got hurt going to take care of some private business. When I went to a medical facility, they told me, since you're not a patient here, we can't see you. And I was banged up and everything. I called a rescue squad. Thank goodness I didn't have a stroke or a heart attack. I've been dead man walking. Anyway, I got seen. I went to Farmville Hospital. I redress. I went to the health clinic, health facility. They told me, you need to go to urgent care or emergency room because we don't have walk-in. I said, really? Okay, that's cool. I went there the next day, 4th of July, Farmville Hospital, got seen just like that. Everything that they did to me at Farmville Hospital, they could have did at medical facility. I'm just here. It was asked, what could the town do for me? Since you got this miscellaneous discretionary fund, I know you ain't gonna do it because y'all, never mind.
Well, it's gone now.
Yeah, I know it is, but I'm just gonna throw it out there. You can go to Blackstone Rescue Squad. I know the town deal with them. They put up a building, they get free gas, free food, and free everything else. And pick up that bill. But I know that's all right. It's already taken care of. Then, heard some people come to the council. Some of they been here for 5 years in Blackstone. I've been here since 1956. Retired military, retired from the Department of Correction, went to an HBCU student, alumni, and a native son. And I got treated like this. They have no shame. I mean, now I know y'all can't do nothing to the medical facility. I don't want to close it down because ain't no use closing down. You ain't bringing nothing in there. But I'm just, if it that's all right. That's all right. That's all right.
Thank you for your comments,
And,
Mr. Taylor.
I'm gonna need a ride to the board of supervisors meeting. Can the Blackstone bus take me there? I don't know.
But I can.
All right. I'm gonna count you to it.
No problem.
Chief, you better get the heck out of town now.
Any comments or questions for Mr.
I'm
Taylor?
not answering no question, and this ain't the Prime Minister Q&A. No, I'm not answering no question. You'll read about it in the paper. You got a copy of it. You got a copy of it. You read it in the paper Wednesday.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Do we have any more visitors, Madam Clerk?
Devin Foster.
Mr. Clark?
I just had one question. I was looking on, good evening, William Clark, 420 Sullivan Street.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
I was looking on this site, and I was just curious about the committees. It really woke me up a little bit when y'all moved so fast on the deal at the speed bumps on Pickett Court. I just would like to know the people, who I talked about the committees, knowing all the committees we got. Okay, she could send me, because I couldn't find it on the site. And I want to, and I wasn't going to talk about, Mr. Taylor brought up an issue that I had with that medical center. During the, I know, but But during when the virus was going on, I didn't get service, and I was a patient. They never got in touch with me for 2 years. I ended up changing to another doctor. But I thought that might be something you might want to think on. All right.
Well,
Well, I think,
Mr. Almer,
Yeah.
in our, I believe,
Oh, yeah, thank you.
I don't wanna claim it as mine, but I know somewhere in the council goals, we talked about, our lease with the medical center.
Mm-hmm.
And how we, to be frank, we don't feel that, everything that has been promised by them has been done. So it is something that is on our radar. It's not something that we are ignoring.
And mind you, now everybody else was getting treatment.
Let me add to that.
Mhm.
Had a discussion today with Chastity, and right there, we're going to be seeking a field of, we're going to be checking on, trying to get somebody here, because everybody knows that the medical thing is not the thing here. So we're going to be looking and searching, and only thing I'm doing now is we talked today. We're just trying to get some names so we know where to go.
Yeah, because I mean, and be honest with you, the treatment wasn't that good. Because after I got the other physician, they told me it's a lot of stuff I didn't get that I should have got.
I have a question though. I mean, since they treated him that way, just suppose you fell and hit your head, and you go up in there and they refuse you, and a person dies. You understand what I'm saying?
But in that
If they got this policy where they say if you don't belong to them, they're not gonna serve you. So what would actually happen?
Well, another thing that happened this year with them is in January, most people who have like Medicaid insurance and things like that, they were all on a certain plan because they go to Bon Secours and they accept it. People were calling me and telling me that they signed up for the renewal in November or December. January, late January, they got a letter from Bon Secours saying they're no longer taking that insurance, and it's after the transition period, the sign-up period. So, how many of our lower income citizens now don't have access to health care in their own town just because of that decision? So, maybe something to think about.
I have a question, Mr. Manager. Philip, do we have any autonomy over that medical center at all? Would you brief the council on how much lease we've got left? Do we have any say over it or whatever?
I don't have the lease obviously in front of me. We just, I think about 4 years ago, completed the first 10-year lease. I think we paid off the medical center in 2019, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So we're in the 4th year of the first of 2 5-year renewable periods. There was a 10-year period that was completed in 2019. We're 4 years into the first of 2 5-year renewals. And I think the negotiation processes, and we paid them off, I think, in May, or paid off the facility in May. So I think we're headed into the final year of that 5 years. So I think the negotiation period is probably primed to do that. I think there are other providers. Do we have the ability to unilaterally make decisions? If they break the lease and haven't lived up to the entreaties in the lease, yeah, you have that ability. But they have the ability to renew the lease if there's no objection at their discretion. They've exercised that first 5, and they've got one more that they're entitled to if we have no objection.
Oh, we
A
can't.
valid issue or something.
If memory serves, I think you're gonna get, Ms. Williams' Building and Grounds Committee together.
I think it's time. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I'm gonna refer this lease and their business practices and whatever it pertains to the lease to this committee. And if y'all could get back and tell us, what options we have. So it's a pretty big decision, and I'd like council to be fully engaged when.
I think it's
when
certainly
they-
time you're within that 12 months for the renewal.
Okay.
And what we don't want to see is them we want to renew 30 days before the deadline. So appropriately so to get the committee or council working on it.
When you say without objection, does the objection have to be a violation of the lease, or could
would
it be
think so.
quality care and accessibility issues?
Well, my familiarity with it, obviously I don't have it in front of me, my familiarity with it, there would have to be a breach of lease or a breach of agreement of some sort. They're not doing something, they're not doing this. I don't know if that lease addresses certain insurance carriers. I don't know if that lease addresses that we shall see non-patients, but it did have statements in there where they would press forward and try to make some issue or provide some after-hour care and things like that. So I think it could be tied to some of those kinds of things.
That's pretty much,
Something with dental too. I remember.
And there was supposed to be a dental
yeah, I
facility.
mean, I was in on the ground floor of it, and there was
For
supposed to
indigent.
be like, what is it, lab that they have? You know, the big lab company, they were gonna be in there.
LabCorp.
LabCorp, there was supposed to be mental health, there was supposed to be, you know, almost like a small hospital.
And they explained it to us one time. The previous mayor and I and some other employees met with them when there was some discussion about a hospital. If you remember that they were talking about a hospital, and then finally they came back and said, "No, we're not. It's not feasible. We don't believe it's feasible to do it." I think there's some issues where you have to look at the economics of it, but I think they have to explain it. Why aren't we doing these things? Why aren't we doing it? And I think the issue came up 4 years ago about not taking the new patients, and I think the issue they were low on providers, and I think they've just added a doctor recently, but that was the explanation that Bon Accords gave us. If you remember, they had a doctor, I think, come from Lunenburg to take a place or a position, but the reason they said they weren't seeing new patients or taking new patients is because they didn't have enough providers.
Well, hearsay has told me, hearsay has told me that there's a doctor that has been ready to retire and will leave when this new one is acclimated.
Okay. Well, and it may have been a different doctor, but
Right.
the explanation was they were understaffed as far as doctors, and that's why they were taking.
That's
anyone.
why yes, ma'am.
I would just like to say, the committee and I, we will look at the lease first, but then also, I think we need to have a discussion with Bon Secours.
Certainly.
And tell them that the citizens' concerns versus us going in there and saying blah, blah, blah.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
need to let them know that our concerns being voiced, so they can be aware of it, because they can come and say, we wasn't aware of it.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to do those two things.
Well, that's all referred to you, and I think the council would be delighted if you would have these meetings, and bring it to the council for their discussion, so. Any other questions or comments?
In the meantime.
Podium, please. What are you grumbling about down there? Folks can't hear it. I
Not
can't
me.
hear it.
In the meantime, Chantel Lotta also has the small care facility.
Yes,
Yes,
thank you,
yes,
thank you.
yes.
Miller and I are
Yeah.
remiss by not, thank
Yeah.
you for bringing that up.
That,
It's my fault
and I
because I
think
didn't go get those business cards, but I will be, and what we want her to do is put herself out here.
Yeah.
I don't think she's getting enough publicity.
yeah.
So I'm gonna make it my point in the morning to go, cause she's been closed. I think she opened back up today, but I'm gonna make it my point in the morning to go in there and talk to her.
And I know she takes new patients
Yeah, she
and
does. She does everything
all
but
kinds of
surgery.
insurance and everything.
Everything
Yeah,
but
she
surgery.
took over Dr. Wright's,
Office.
office there, and she has done an outstanding job with it. She has a very capable support staff. I've been in there on several occasions. I haven't used them as a client or a patient, but I promise you I will.
Nah.
This thing going, no,
It's on
Right
Elm,
there, right there by
it's
the
Elm
on
Street.
Broad.
Right
It's on
there
Broad
on Broad
Street.
Street.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's,
Right behind the drugstore.
right.
It's called County Med, right?
County
Yeah,
Med.
County Med.
she is a outstanding addition to our community, so
So in the meantime, citizens
thank you
could
for,
use her.
thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Come to the podium, please, sir. Good for the goose, good for the gander.
I know. I still, whatever.
All right.
I just want to thank my friend, put that on the record, from Petersburg. He came pick me up that Tuesday to take me to the Farmville Hospital. Thank you, Town of Blackstone.
All right, is any other visitors before we get to the fire chief's report? He's gonna do it at the fire chief's report.
Damn, 30
Thank you,
minute
appreciate
meeting
it.
will
Any
last
other
an hour
visitors would
and a
like to
half.
come forward? All right. Lieutenant Foster, would you like to come up, please, sir?
Good evening. How's everybody doing?
Wonderful, good to see you, sir.
Good to see everybody. Thank you all for having me on, I guess, short notice. I would like to pass something around to each member of the mayor. So I'll get to that in just one moment. We'll go over the fire chief's report. As far as old business, the radio system, RFP closed on May 31st. We did have 3 vendors submit. That's currently undergoing a technical review by our CTA. There's been no update on the countywide fire code from the emergency services coordinator. There's also no update on hydrant maintenance, painting, or the rental inspections. Tower 9, however, is expected to be completed in November of 2023, so that's rapidly approaching. The frame is scheduled to hit the production line on the first week of August, with the most recent drawing is attached. Grants, we did submit Stop the Bleed training kit grant. There's also a Stop the Bleed class going on tonight down at the fire station. I'd like to add that. We were awarded the Virginia Department of Forestry grant for foam, hose adapters, and a 50/50 grant for that. That we were denied by OEMS the utility task vehicle grant that we were hoping to receive. New business, Chief Tomer's not here tonight. He has scheduled to be a part of the Residential Virginia Chief Officer Academy at the University of Richmond for the entire week. He arrived last night and he'll be there until Friday evening. I would also like to add that firefighter paramedic Timothy Emicus is attending the Virginia Fire Officer Academy, as that's also at the University of Richmond. Our Recruitment and Retention Committee, they're scheduled to have a membership potluck meal on July 29th. It's to bring our members together. We're going to have a movie, bring everybody together at the fire station. That way our families can spend some time and get to know each other outside of the everyday fire life we tend to have. We did go live with ESO on July 1st. That's our new record management system. It is a learning curve for all of us within the organization, but this is going to provide us with a better record management system. It's very user-friendly, I will say that. It's going to help us have continued compliance with our mandated federal and state reporting requirements. The blood drive that we recently had did have a lower than expected turnout. We had 27 donors scheduled, but only 20 did show up. 19 total units of blood were collected, and that can help save 57 lives. So go ahead and mark your calendars for September 19th. That will be our next blood drive, of course, located at the fire station. Annual National Fire Protection Association fire hose testing took place this past month as well. We tested over 17,500 feet of hose, and fortunately only 75 foot of that hose failed. So that is very good for the organization. This month, we do celebrate Lieutenant Hunter Oakes. He has 7 years of service, and firefighter Christopher Parrish, he has 1 year of service. At our business meeting, we did welcome Julie White. She is the wife of firefighter Ron Melton, and she is on probationary status for 6 months. Our next big fundraising event, I'll jump back up to that, is the Cow Pie Bingo and Food Truck event, August 5th at Wigglesworth Sports Complex. That's what I passed around to you all. Did want to take a moment to read that, and I wanted to say thank you again for granting us the opportunity to use the facility and for allowing me to speak tonight regarding that. I wanted to answer some questions that you guys had last time I talked to you, specifically regarding alcohol at the event. We have been approved for ABC license. I do have that, and I'd be happy to provide a copy if y'all would like that as well. The agent overseeing our license did advise that there was no particular limit on alcohol sales unless it was implemented by the organization or business per se. We decided that we would enact a limit of 1 drink per identified person per transaction. There will also be a notice where at the beverage area stating that individuals showing excessive intoxication or belligerent behavior will be asked to leave, and all individuals entering the complex, regardless whether they're going to consume alcohol or whether they intend to consume or not, they'll be given a green wristband if they're over the age of 21, and they'll receive a black X on their hand if they are under the age of 21, and this goes for everybody. Contact has been made with Chief Kuzmiak to have additional Blackstone officers at the event. And we'll also have Nottoway County Rescue Squad there, in addition to our first responder unit to provide any EMS care if needed. Entertainment is being donated by Bright Lights Entertainment. We're going to have food vendors, craft vendors. One final disclaimer, it is not exactly a cow as previously advertised. We're going to have a water buffalo. So the water buffalo is being donated by Lathan Toth and is extremely domesticated, okay? This particular buffalo has a track record of behaving well, and currently they place a saddle on it, and they walk it around and let kids ride the water buffalo. So we're very confident in the behavior of the animal at the event. And then, of course, like I did say, we'll clean everything up. We do plan on painting the field, but we will clean everything up that is left. I also provided a flyer in case you guys have any questions. And then if you have any additional questions, I'd love to answer those as well.
Members of council, do you have any questions for Captain Foster?
I do, and you may not know the answer for this one. If you go back to the chief's report,
Yes, sir.
went live July 1st with ESO's record management system.
Yes, sir.
Does this take place of image trend?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So
We have a bill for 409, so it's from my
for this month,
From my understanding is that the county is covering the new software.
that is my understanding as well. Yes, sir.
So we'll start seeing that go obsolete, right?
Yes, sir.
The image trend.
Yes, sir. That actually, if you go to log on to Image now, you're unable to do so.
Will this fundraiser be an ongoing annual event now, or like this be the first annual and?
That is the hope. That is the goal. We're projecting around 3,000 community members come out. We between the Arts and Crafts Festival, the Juneteenth Festival, those are two great events for our community, but we want to have more for the community. And we're hoping this is going to be the first annual. We're going to go rain or shine. And, of course, you don't have to be present to win. If you'd like to come by just for a few minutes, purchase a square. If your square just happens to be the one that receives a pie, we'll give you a call. So, like I said, our goal is for it to be the first annual, but we're going to evaluate our fundraising committee. We're actually starting planning now for the future, for next year. So hopefully, once this event concludes, we'll see some progress.
Just a moment of levity.
Yes,
okay?
sir.
We're not gonna have children on the back of this beast while you're.
Oh,
doing
no,
something?
sir. No, sir. Not at this event. No, the cow will be, or the buffalo will be it will be enclosed in an area where we are hoping it will produce the pie. It will be led from the
It's so graceful.
Yeah, I was successful.
it will be escorted from its trailer to the field where it will be encased in an area. It's going to be released around 4:30, and then at 6 o'clock, that's when we're concluding whether it's produced a pie or not. And then it's going to be escorted back out to the trailer and removed from there. We're not going to put any adults, children, and we plan on nobody mounting this animal.
And I think, did you guys address noise ordinance or closing streets? All that's been taken care of?
So I guess just to remind everybody, the only change we have with the street, I believe it's not Birch Street. Goodness, I'm sorry.
Harris?
Harris Street, South Harris Street. We are going to make that a one-way street. But we have the manpower to close that and direct traffic.
Make sure you coordinate with the chief.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You gonna block off Harris Street off from where to where?
So just from Birch Street over to, I believe it's Jackson. School Street. Yep. And so we're just gonna bring traffic up Birch Street, and they'll be able to take a left, and then they can turn left into the parking lot at the Wigglesworth Sports Complex. Then when they leave, they'll pull out, they'll take a left. We're just gonna make it one way. That way, if we have people walking across, if we have anybody pushing strollers, anything, if we have anybody using the basketball courts, that way traffic's all gonna be in one direction.
And have you decided on which field you're gonna use yet?
Yes, so when you go into the complex, it'll be the first field to the right. It has a larger outfield for us to use. And
All this agreeable to you, Mr. Manager?
I'm very much in favor of the cow pie.
Can I get clarification on the date on this thing again?
Yes, sir. Saturday, August 5th.
August 5th.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We'll have a barrier between this beast and the DJ, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
okay.
We will also have multiple handlers too. Of course, our primary goal, yes, we want to have fun, but our primary goal is always going to be safety. And we're going to have some other little fencing set up, and if anything happens, the DJ will be escorted off premises.
Right, yeah.
expeditiously.
I have a question in reference
Yes,
to the
ma'am.
blood drive. Do you have a time for that yet, or?
No, ma'am, we can bring that back to you next month, or as soon as possible. I guess typically it's about 9 a.m., 9 to 10 a.m. They come in and set up.
Can you give that to the clerk and we'll get an email out to everyone? I appreciate it.
You may want to consider having it a little bit later.
Okay.
It's like me, I would love to give, but I don't get home after that time.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
17th of September.
19th. 19th. Yes, sir.
Just one more question. The VDOF grant, it's a 50/50 grant. Do you know the amount of that? I know Chief's not here.
No, sir, I don't. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from council? Thank you, Captain Foster. We
Thank you
appreciate
all
it.
so much. We're so grateful for y'all, and hopefully we will see everyone August 5th at Wigglesworth.
Have a great event. Thank you.
Council, now is the time for the payment of bills. The first batch that you have before you have been paid but not yet approved. They are in the amount of $830,008.51. What is council's pleasure? Mr. Nash has moved to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Allman has second. Are there any questions about the bills or comments?
For sake of record, you said 830, but it's 893, yes?
830,
800,
Am I looking at the wrong place?
830,
893.
893.08.51, right?
yes, that's what you say. I'm having a bad night. Take it out of my pay.
$893,008.51.
Correct.
All right,
I just for sake of record, because it's
893, $8.51. That's what I wrote down. I'm sorry I didn't say it.
right on.
I appreciate
That's why we
you.
work together, man.
I
We
know
got-
it, man. We're a good team. I hear you. All right. So, is there any questions or comments about these bills that I've botched up so far? Hearing none, I'll ask for a roll call vote to approve, starting with Mr. Miller.
No.
Mr. Nash.
Aye.
Just seeing if you're on your toes.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. This second batch that needs approved and to be paid are in the amount of $134,654.06. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Mr. Nash has moved to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Williams has seconded the motion. Are there any questions or concerns about the second batch of bills?
Philip, the Times Dispatch advertising, was that prior to not receiving any bids?
Yeah, advertising always gonna be before, receiving, I dare say with the only advertising.
So we received none even though we advertised in the Richmond Times Dispatch.
Any other questions or concerns? I'll ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Nash, to approve.
Aye.
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 Motion carries 6-0. Mr. Manager, are there any appropriations this evening?
There are not.
We'll move on to unfinished business. Item number 1 is business license penalties. You have a memorandum from our attorney in your packet. I would prefer to discuss this with Attorney Bacon, and I will most likely have 1 or 2 more ordinances for council to consider, considering public speakers. And with that being the case, I'll be continuing this meeting tonight to meet with the town attorney, and that meeting will be the 16th of August at 7 p.m. in these chambers.
Yeah, won't be here.
Hmm?
Won't be here.
I'm not gonna be here.
I am.
I'll get the clerk to get with me and see if we can. August is a tough month, but
Definitely won't be here.
You can call us.
I'll call a meeting.
Call a meeting,
I'll call a
yeah.
meeting to do it. Mr. Manager, you may have an issue or two that you want to discuss. Please do so. Do you have anything you want to discuss on
On
this?
this topic?
Yes.
No, no.
All right, we'll move right along to item number 2 is an award for the airport lighting. Would you please report, or either Chairman Allman?
I can report. Met with our, with the lowest bidder on the airport lighting project. Just a brief overview for the public and for everyone up here. We applied to the Virginia Department of Aviation for a lighting grant using our engineer Talbot and Bright. Sorry for something leaking from the ceiling. Engineer Talbert and Bright for a lighting project for some safety issues that we had on our airport ramp. Was approved and open lowest bidder, and hopefully the work will.
Huge difference.
Yeah, it was a big difference in
Low
the
bid
prices.
is 92,000. The next bid, the only other bid was 257,000.